Hey everyone, it's your buddy back again with another exciting fanfic, which is what if Naruto has failed the third attempt at his Genin exam. Part 2. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. So you two are Ito's students, huh? The ones he was bringing over for new uniforms? I'm not sure. We only called our instructors, sir. Sakura replied. I talked to him last night. Pinky and Whiskers were the pair he talked about. That's you two. Did he tell you anything else past to show up here? No, sir, Naruto replied. The shopkeeper grumbled. That means he stumbled into something he shouldn't have. Okay, you two listen up. There is a lot going on in Konoha and somehow the pair of you are now in the middle of it and deeply involved in something you're not ready for. He pointed at a label in one of the uniforms. See this? It is a chakra restriction seal. Every one of your uniforms has one in the pants and shirt. Where did you get these clothes? Naruto looked shocked but stuttered out, from the quartermaster, before shutting up. The boy wilted under the shopkeeper's glare at giving such shoddy information until Sakura answered, our first instructor at the remedial classes sent us there for uniforms. We did not think anything of it because we had no other suitable clothing. The shopkeeper nodded, that makes sense. Someone was trying to set both of you up so you could not make it back into the elite program. Then you could just disappear when you are out of sight. Anbu looked for that conduit for years and never stumbled onto it. Naruto looked worried. Sir, are we in trouble? You two specifically. No, not yet. You're definitely in danger but not in trouble. And knock it off with the dang, sirs. You need to call me something, call me Hero. I am an old friend of your instructor. The door chime sounded and Hero motioned for them to be quiet as he went to the front. Naruto could barely hear some conversation happening but he did not want to move closer to find out. Minutes passed before Hiro came back into the room leading a purple-haired woman. This is another old friend of mine, kids. She works here part-time. Her name is Yugo. Pinky, go with her for a few minutes. Since you are here, I'll get you set up with a few new outfits. The ones you have are really worn out and fit you like a tent. It was a good thing Ito suggested you come here instead of the quartermaster this time. Yugo offered to help Pinky because I hate helping Kunoichi find clothes. Sakura looked confused but followed Yugo out to the main part of the store after Yugo glared at Hiro. Hiro then turned to Naruto and spoke in low tones, when you next get a Hokage-sized ramen delivered, tell your friend that Blue Aardvark says hello and is waiting for the word with all of his friends. Now, this is not something Pinky needs to hear, understand? Naruto nodded slowly and was intimidated by the change in the man before him. Good, I have some idea of what is going on. Don't ask me how or why, just listen. Root is very interested in you. They are not your friends. They are planning something big in the next few months and you have become a part of their plans. Yugo tells me my friend Ito is in the hospital right now and he may die. He found something out and now those bastards are going to pay for hurting him. You have kept a lot of things quiet up until now but in the next few weeks you will be forced to pick a side. Make sure it is the right one. Naruto could only nod slowly as his fear grew. The man in front of him grew less intense after a few seconds and smiled. So, what size pants you going to need? You look like about a 30 inseam. I'm a 29, Naruto said confused. Meh. Go with the 30, you'll be hitting a growth spurt eventually, Hiro said. Oh, geez, stop looking so scared. I am serious about what I said but you need to remember. Real ninja work is not done by the elite. It was done by people like me. The elites are good but we are the best. Yeah, Ito never mentions it to anyone. He didn't make the cut. But no matter what someone else may say in the next few months, elite is not the best there is. Anbu is. You are Anbu only when you have earned the right from your peers. Being Anbu means you are Anbu for life. Hiro smirked as Naruto nodded slowly and tried on the clothes the shopkeeper brought him. I wish I could tell you, boy. Only one other Uzumaki ever lived in this village. She was one of the best of us. I owe her more than I can ever repay. Sakura went with Yugo out to the main shop floor. She just looked nervous as the older Kunoichi held up various pants and shirts against her. Relax, Sakura, he'll be fine with Hiro. You're doing a good job watching him for the Hokage. Sakura stopped and looked at Yugo. What do you mean? Yugo smirked. Meow. Sakura was puzzled for a moment before she got it. Oh. Yeah. Oh, I saw that stunt your instructor pulled yesterday with the uniforms. I was tempted to kill him for it, but someone else almost beat me to it. Yugo looked unconcerned as she held up a different dark-colored shirt against Sakura. This one should fit you better than those standard rags of yours. Go try it on. Sakura was almost freaking out. She managed to keep her voice low. How can you talk about killing someone and be so calm about it? Yugo looked. We're ninja. That's what we do. Here, these pants should fit you okay. Being all showy and having flashy jutsu is for the elites. They kill sometimes but not often. Elites make ninja look less like a covert strike force than we really are. Public relations is one thing, but you don't honestly think the classes in killing were just for show, did you? Sakura blustered. Well, no, but you make it sound like you were buying groceries or something. Not really, but the day it becomes like buying groceries is the day you need to stop doing it and get out, Yugo said softly. Anyway, you handled Naruto pretty well in that classroom. You could go far if you chose to. First time you ever see a boy with that reaction. Sakura nodded as she dressed. Yes. It freaked me out at first, but I sort of felt good about it after a bit. No one else ever reacted like that. Yeah, just so you know, a lot of us girls have a pot going on if the Uchiha is gay or not. Let me see how that looks on you. Yugo looked at Sakura and nodded. Shirt is good. Not too baggy but loose enough to hide some things in. Pants just tight enough to show some shape but not skin tight. A few more years and you could be mistaken for a professional like us. Sakura looked confused at Yugo. You make it sound like I'm one of you. I'm not even an official genin yet. True, you're not a genin officially, but as far as potentially being one of us, you could be someday if you get the right experience. But for that, you need to choose. Something is going to happen soon. Your teacher set off more than he realized by finding those files. They know we are onto them. People are going to have to decide where they stand, with the Hokage and how Konoha is, or with Root and the war machine Danzo wants to make of it. I need you to wait out here while I talk to Naruto, Yugo finished. Sarutobi looked at the ninja laying in the ICU. Multiple stab wounds littered his back and chest. I need to know what happened for certain. Kat tells me he found something in the files, but she couldn't tell exactly what. The entire drawer was covered in blood. Something about the most recent washbacks. He sighed as he looked over to a second ninja in a similar state. This one I did not even suspect of being Root. This means they have infiltrated the training system as well. Danzo could have hundreds of ninja in Root by now and the rest of us none the wiser. It all comes down to the contents of that file. Get back here quickly, Kat. I need that information. How could I have overlooked having Naruto tell me who contacted him? Danzo-sama, we have a problem, the operative said. What is it? The crippled man replied in his rough voice. Our man in the elite remedial training program is in the hospital. We do not know why, because Anbu have sealed off the area. All we know is that it was in the records room and 2 people were taken to the hospital with life-threatening wounds. A large amount of spilled blood was observed. Get people as close to it as possible. I need to know what happened, Danzo said in a low voice. Yugo walked into the back of the shop. Wow, Hiro, you have him looking like a chunin without the vest. Naruto, the Hokage needs to know why your current teacher would be in the records room of the training center. Is he the man who contacted you about doing that job for Root? Naruto looked over confused. What are you talking about? What job? Yugo was getting frustrated. First she had to help out a kunoichi find decent clothes, and now the kid with information she needed to get for the Hokage was playing games. She grabbed Naruto by the shirt and pushed him hard back into the wall. One hand slid down into her fanny pack and pulled out her cat mask and held it over her face for a moment before continuing. The Hokage sent me to get some information from you, Uzumaki. He visits you once a week with a shadow clone to find out if anyone has contacted you. If something happens, you are to go to Ichiraku's ramen and order a Hokage-sized ramen to go, and he would get to you as quickly as possible. I do not have time for word games with you, boy. Answer my questions. Who contacted you to do the job for Root? My teacher did. Hiro broke in. Ito could not have been your contact. No, it was the first guy who contacted me. I never knew his name. He never told us, Naruto said in a shaky voice. Ito talked to me some last night. He mentioned a few of his suspicions about what he knew and a theory. We were talking for 3 hours last night, Yugo. It would take me some time to relay all of it, Hiro told the upset woman. Take Naruto to the Hokage and let him start with what he knows while I get over to the tower. With this bum leg it will take me nearly an hour to get there. If Root sees me getting carried there, they will know something is up. Right, take the very kid that the Hokage threatened to send to the legions in public to see him in the open. Are you freaking insane? Yugo yelled. Hiro smirked. I have been called worse. But you just said he almost looks like a chunin. Now suppose we toss a vest on him and with his headgear and a little face paint over the whiskers, instant chunin. That is completely dumb, Hiro. Yugo sighed. But it just might work right now. Naruto grinned. So all I have to do is tell him everything I know, right? About the teacher and the seals and all that. Oh, what were those seals called again? They heard a voice behind them, chakra restriction seals. Hiro and Yugo spun with drawn weapons and saw Sakura standing in the doorway. I heard the yelling and then half the stuff on the wall out there fell down. I'm surprised the shop next door is not coming over to see what is going on, Sakura explained. You kids are really beginning to piss me off. I need to get this information to the Hokage as soon as possible. The Hokage said that you think me and Naruto make a good team. Together we might have the information you need. I was there when we got the uniforms. They were doing this to me too. After yesterday, I am in this whether I like it or not, Sakura pleaded. Grr. I don't have time to argue this. Fine, you're coming too. Cover that hair and let's go. Hiro pulled out a pair of chunin vests and tossed them to Naruto and Sakura, saying, I want those back when you get back here. Take the old uniforms too. The Hokage will want to see the seals. I'll get to the tower with what Ito told me. Yugo put on her mask while Naruto and Sakura fumbled with putting on the vests and headgear. They picked up the old uniforms and nodded. Let's go, said Kat. The trio managed to get to the Hokage without an incident. Sarutobi did a double take seeing Sakura and Naruto in their disguises but quickly took over an empty hospital room to discuss things. Naruto quickly told of the teacher who approached him and the seals in the uniforms. Sakura followed up with more information and the name of the person who provided the uniforms. Photographic memory does help sometimes, she thought. Kat told him that Hiro was getting to the tower with more information from his conversation the night before with Ito. Sarutobi was upset that a teacher who had vital information but could not tell them was ruining everything in his plan to flush out Root. His plan had started out simple, but now things were spiraling out of control because of an earnest teacher trying to help his students. The internal war he feared was closer to being set off than it was before he planned this gambit. His time for deciding action to prevent an all-out civil war was fading by the minute. Sir, Sakura interrupted. I know I don't know everything, but the core move of your entire plan was to get Naruto into the hands of this Root group. Yes, that is amazing deduction from hearing so little about this, Sakura. But after tonight they will not likely be going near him. In fact, I think that if they find out he was going to be a plant, they would be after him to keep him quiet, Sarutobi said with a resigned tone. So Naruto and anyone else who was working against them would become a target once word of this whole sting operation gets out. Sakura asked in a timid voice. Yes, I need to find a way to hush this up before the truth of this attack gets out, but I need a plausible story. Something that can make the original plan still work. Sarutobi rubbed his chin trying to think. What would it take for them to take him? Cat asked. After this mess, he would have to be being hunted down and have no place else to hide, Sarutobi said. Naruto shuddered as he felt a chill and looked back at Sakura. Sakura-chan, I don't like that smile on your face. Hokage-sama, what as he was being hunted for questioning in a murder attempt? Sakura asked. Sarutobi, Kat and Naruto were speechless. Well, Hokage-sama, you did threaten us in public with being sent to the legions if we failed. What if Ito, our teacher, was telling us we were being failed? He did punish us often in this past week and in front of the class. The people in it know he kept us after class yesterday. Sakura-chan, what do you mean by we? Naruto asked. Think about it, Naruto. The seals in my clothes mean Root was after me as well. Also, what about taking out the teachers? Do you think one genin could take out 2 teachers even by surprise? With both of us we could manage it. We ambushed one in the file room, the other one heard the noise and we ambushed him as well to get away. We tried to make it look like they fought each other. We learned how to do that in class, remember? We changed clothes and left the bloody ones somewhere but they get found and we need a place to hide. We can figure it out from there. Hokage-sama can put out an alert for outcapture for questioning in the matter and tell the Anbu he trusts to avoid finding us until Root does. Kat spoke up. That is an insane plan. It would never work. Actually, it might, Sarutobi said quietly. But it would mean a major sacrifice for both of you. I will not allow it. Naruto spoke up. Old man, Hokage-sama, do you think that Danzo would let me get away, knowing that he was almost found out and exposed? Not just me, but Sakura-chan as well. We would spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders to make sure we aren't stabbed in the back. We have to risk this now. Get rid of them now while we have a chance or spend the rest of our lives in fear. Sarutobi cursed himself for dragging this pair of children into this plan. Now, they were shaming him by behaving like true warriors and ninja when he wanted to put them safely aside and protect them. Cat, could we get blood from both men onto uniforms that Naruto and Sakura had with them just now? Maybe plant them somewhere in the civilian sectors of the village. Sarutobi asked. Doing it would be easy enough, Hokage-sama, Kat replied. Before I order this, I have to hear it from each of you. I am asking you to consider that it can cost you your lives. You can choose not to do this and I will not think any less of either of you, Sarutobi said as he looked at each teen in turn. I will do it, Hokage-sama, replied Naruto without hesitation. I will do it as well, Hokage-sama, answered Sakura immediately after. All right, I will get this set up. I hope you can both forgive an old man for using you both like this one day. Cat, get the clothing ready. Use your own discretion for planting it. Cat nodded and left with the uniforms in hand. There is something else I was supposed to tell you, old man, Naruto said. It was from someone I met tonight, but I am not sure if it was a secret or not. Should I whisper it to you or should I just say it in front of Sakura-chan? Can you give us a moment in private, Sakura? Sarutobi asked. Sakura nodded and stepped out of the room. Old man, the guy named Hiro who got us these clothes asked me to tell you that Blue Aardvark is waiting for the word. Sarutobi nodded thoughtfully. Blue Aardvark was one of the larger groups of retired and former Anbu that had sprung up in Konoha. Knowing they were behind the Hokage in retirement as they had been on active duty was a surprise benefit in all of this. Thank you, Naruto, that does help me. More than you know. The pair called Sakura back in and they waited until Kat returned from her mission. The clothes are planted, Hokage-sama. They should be found in the morning. I left them in the merchant's district a block away from Hiro's shop. That will also allow Naruto and Sakura to explain away new clothes when Root finds them. Kat looked at the pair. Give me those Chunin vests before you leave. I hope to see you both safe and sound at the end of this. After the pair had left, Kat turned to the Hokage. Hokage-sama, that question you asked them. It sounded very much like the 10th question asked in the Chunin exam's written test. Sarutobi nodded. I know, Kat. It was meant to. Both of them are mentally ready to be Chunin. Now, we need to meet your friend Hiro at the tower. I will have torture and interrogation take charge of the men in ICU if either wakes. We need to keep them silent and safe until this plan unfolds. Perhaps the one should die, to prevent him from returning to his master. Naruto and Sakura moved in the darkness to a more isolated part of Konoha. The areas within the walls where the Kyuubi had destroyed many buildings were largely uninhabited. Naruto found them a comfortable place to rest in an abandoned old house. This is going to be rough, Sakura-chan, Naruto said as they tried to get some rest. What else can we do, Naruto? Sakura asked. If we don't do it, they'll come after us. This way we have a chance. We should get some sleep while we can. Naruto just nodded and lay back on the creaking floor. Dawn came to Konoha. It was a bright sunny day without a cloud in the sky. Shouts rose up from the merchant district as a woman found the bloody clothes. Word passed quickly as the Anbu arrived and took charge of things. By noon, the word had spread to most of the ninja of Konoha. Bring in Uzumaki Naruto and Haruno Sakura for questioning as witnesses in the attack on two instructors. Experienced Genin teams that had been preparing for the Chunin exams in another few weeks had been mobilized to search the village. The rookies had been kept together by their teachers since they had known the missing students only months before. Teams 8 and 10 talked about it but decided they really did not know Sakura and Naruto that well after all. Shikamaru just lay there and said, troublesome, even though his mind worked frantically on the puzzle. Hinata fretted some but said nothing. The search had been widespread and but not that intense as it was only for questioning. The people looking felt that if it was truly serious, then Anbu would have been dispatched to find the pair. The day passed and no clue had been found on the missing students. Sakura's mother was worried while many civilians were commenting that it was only the Uzumaki boy finally showing his true colors. Retired ninjas kept quiet while a slow message was passed among a small group of them. Deep under Konoha, Danzo growled out an order, find them and bring them to us. If they are caught, Uzumaki will be locked up in a prison so tight that I will never get him. Haruno is not as important but she could be useful. Sakura and Naruto spent the day planning out their story. They decided to lace it liberally with the truth and only a few lies to link the facts and distort them. The teacher kept them after class like everyone knew. The next day he told them they were going to fail. He told them to return in secret that night if they wanted to pass. When they returned, he told them that he would pass them if Sakura earned their grade. Since she decided that she would never allow that to happen, he went to the record rooms to write the failure in their records. Sakura told Naruto that since he was in the same situation, if they didn't stop him, they would be gone. Naruto went along with the plan and they attacked the teacher. Their first teacher heard the noise and came in, so they were forced to attack him and hope that it looked like the pair got into a fight. Once out of the training area, they headed for the marketplace under cover of night and stole the clothing from the shop after the man limped out for the night. Then they hid. Naruto nodded and made sure that he understood it. Sakura-chan, why were you in the elite program? Naruto asked after they had sat quietly for a time. Well, my dad was an ordinary ninja. He was never that good at it. I mean, he made Chunin but he was just a military ninja. His squad leader saw that his control was great. He just had so little chakra that he could barely get through training. He did something for his commander once, he saved him I think, and he died for it. It took him a long time to die too. Sakura choked up at this part but Naruto waited in silence until she could continue. Well, when I was old enough, he came to see me. He decided that since I was smart enough and had more chakra than my dad, that he would sponsor me to get into the academy if I wanted. He said he had made a promise to my dad. So, I took it. And fell in love with Sasuke. Sakura stuck her tongue out at Naruto for that one. Well, he was cute and looked like he would make a good guy to have as a boyfriend. Now, I'm not so sure. He was always cold to me. He had great skills, but he was so full of himself. I didn't see those things about him from being so close to him. He put down my training and called you a loser. It is almost funny now. With all the intense training we've had, I'm at least on the level he was before he left the academy. You're way above that. Now, my turn for personal questions. I know you're alone and an orphan, so how did you get in? And why didn't all those pranks get you thrown out? She asked. The old man, Hokage-sama, sponsored me. I think he got a lot of flack over it too. The first day I was there, several teachers all tried to throw me out, but he paid them a visit. Looking back, I realized that he was making them accept me. I never really knew why anyone wouldn't want me around. No one paid any attention to me after that. I had to draw attention to myself, so I started doing pranks. Naruto stopped there when he heard his stomach growl. He looked down and tapped his pockets. I think we forgot to plan on getting something to eat. We might have to get out of here anyhow. I don't think we would get found like this by Root if we stay here. I might try sneaking back to my place later on. The old man said they watched it. Sakura looked confused. Where do you live anyway? Naruto grinned. Actually, it's not that far away from here. That's how I knew this place would be deserted. Going back to my place to hide would have been stupid. Well, you're not going without me. I am going stir crazy just waiting, Sakura grumbled. The pair waited until just after dark before they ventured out. Naruto led Sakura on a winding course to his apartment. She was surprised that his was in such an old run-down building. A Genin squad lounged around the building entrance. Naruto silently pointed at police security seals on the windows before gesturing they would go to the roof. He avoided the team and climbed up the fire escape to the roof. He slid open a panel she didn't even notice and dropped down into the bedroom. Sakura dropped down after peeking in. Naruto was busy stuffing various articles of clothing under the bed. She really did not want to know what, but was glad he had enough courtesy to try. Afterward, he pulled out a box of scrolls and stuffed a few into his shirt. He handed some to Sakura and whispered, "These are important, we take these too. Wait here while I grab some things from the kitchen and living room." Naruto snuck out, and to her surprise he walked right down the middle of the hall. She was about to say something about stealth when she realized that this was his house. He would know where every potentially squeaky floorboard was. He returned in minutes holding a bag of food and some bottles. He had strapped several weapons pouches to his body. This should be all we need for a few days. I figure that by tomorrow, since we had not been found, the old man will send Anbu after us. I think that was normal procedure. The root man might not have seen us coming in, but I spotted him from the kitchen. We'll go west off the roof and end up going right past him. Sakura raised an eyebrow at this. How did you know they were watching you? Naruto grinned the old foxy grin she had not seen in months. Sakura-chan, I always know when someone is watching me, even the Anbu. He boosted Sakura back to the roof. He passed her the supplies before climbing out. He led her off the roof and jumped to the next building before nearly landing on the root agent watching his apartment. The man did not move until both teens had a good start before following. Shortly after that, Kat rose from her own hiding spot and much more discreetly headed for the Hokage Tower. When the pair had returned to their hideout, they ate the fruit and field rations Naruto had brought. Naruto passed her some of the weapons he had brought as well. A quick look into the pouch showed them to be actual weapons, not the training ones they normally had. Sakura looked at them like they were bugs but sighed and took them anyhow. How did you get your hands on real weapons, Naruto? We can't buy these yet, she asked. You would be surprised at some of the things you can find lying around in the training fields, Sakura-chan. I would make pocket money collecting the lost and broken weapons and selling them to the blacksmiths. I just kept a few for myself. But why do we need them now? She persisted. We need to look armed and dangerous, Sakura-chan. We supposedly attacked 2 teachers. For that, we need to have weapons. We also might have to fight at some point, he said. They sat in silence after that. Sakura drifted to sleep while Naruto was just watching the moonlight cross the floor when a noise drew his attention. A voice drifted in the silence. Uzumaki Naruto, Haruno Sakura, come with me if you wish to get out of this situation. Naruto shook Sakura awake before he whispered, how do we get out of this? We won't go to the legions. You have nowhere else to turn, Uzumaki. I can offer you an alternative to what you face now. Murder charges carry the death penalty. One of the instructors died this afternoon, the voice continued. Sakura whispered now, if you betray us too, I'll stab you just like I did them. The flower is deadly. Good. We can use that. Now, come down and join me. We have patrols to avoid in little time before Anbu begins to search. No one expected mere students to hide so well. The teens slowly opened the door and exited the building. A man in a mask much like an Anbu waited. Now, follow me. If you fail to follow or attract attention, the offer will be rescinded. Naruto and Sakura followed the masked ninja for over an hour as he moved in an almost random fashion around the village. They nearly lost him once but reached the goal the person intended. They were directed to go down and access into the tunnels under the village. The heavy iron cover slid into place with a clank and the pair descended into the unknown. All right, we are all here. Inoichi, what has happened with this case? He asked. Yamanaka Inoichi stood and looked at the various people in the room. Well, this started out looking like a simple fight between 2 teachers that got out of hand. However, other evidence has been gathered by Anbu to show it is something else entirely. Yesterday morning, a shop owner found some bloody uniforms in her trash. Anbu was called since they handle things of that nature. A routine check of other businesses close by showed that a ninja supply store had been burglarized during the night. Several shelves had been knocked over and the owner thinks some clothing may have been taken. The uniforms had the names of Haruno and Uzumaki sewn into them. The pair was then called in for questioning but neither could be found. A wider search of the village by multiple Genin squads turned up nothing. The apartment of Uzumaki was sealed pending further investigation. The blood on the clothing was analyzed and found to match both men in the attack. The past 12 hours have changed things. The hospital reports that one of the instructors involved has died of his wounds. During the night, the apartment of Uzumaki had been entered in spite of seals on all doors and windows. Multiple items had been removed including food and weapons. We were unable to trace them once they left the roof. Inuzuka hounds at the scene to track the culprits were rendered useless by sneezing powder. Weapons. How did a student get hold of real weapons? One secretary asked. Anbu and Genin reports show that Uzumaki scavenges used and broken weaponry from training areas he has access to and sells the materials he gathers to local blacksmiths. He has done this for years now. He kept a portion of what he found. Continuing on, officers interviewed members of the Class 1 of the wounded instructors was assigned. Uzumaki and Haruno were members of that class and had been frequently punished for sleeping in class or not paying attention. They had been asked to remain after class the day before the attacks. Class records show they were on the edge of being failed completely. The files of the 2 also had a consequence for failing the class of being sent to the daimyo's legions. That generated a murmur in the briefing room. Being sent to the legions was for criminals and thieves. It involved having a person's chakra sealed and the person branded. It was a painful process that many would commit suicide to avoid. Sarutobi just sat quietly with a stern look on his face. Intelligence has come up with the following chain of event based on current evidence. The instructor wanted to see Uzumaki and Haruno likely to inform them that they were failing the class. The pair must have attacked him and wounded him. The noise would have attracted another instructor. This person had been an earlier instructor for the pair, and interviews show he was harsher on the pair than their current one. He was wounded much more heavily. We think they then set things up to look like the instructors had attacked each other and fled. In the merchants' district, they burglarized a clothing shop and threw out the bloody clothing. We have no clue what they did next, as we have been unable to locate them. One of the Genin in the room sneered, "How hard is it to find a pair of students? You must not have been trying very hard." Inoichi looked back. "Yesterday we were looking for a pair of students who might have been witnesses to a crime. We did not assume at the time they might have been responsible for it. The evidence of the bloody clothing was not connected to the case until late last night. Different divisions were handling two separate cases. Once they were brought together, the larger case is more sinister." Nara Shikaku spoke up next. "Do not forget, this boy is Uzumaki Naruto. He has demonstrated in the past an ability to hide and evade capture that is far beyond his training level. His painting of the Hokage Mountain and subsequent chase around Konoha should be noted as such a feat, showing his level of skill. His only true weakness is his lack of discipline and impetuousness. Haruno is a highly intelligent girl whose only reason for being in that class was her lack of physical ability in the academy. If they are working in concert, they would be a formidable team. My son and Inoichi's daughter went to academy with these two. Uzumaki had a large crush on the girl and would be easily swayed if both were desperate. Her intelligence coupled with his skills and the past 6 months of intense military training would make them the equal of most Genin teams." Sarutobi growled, "I have heard enough. Send word to all ninja in Konoha. I want the pair of them captured and brought in alive. With Uzumaki's condition, his death or the death of the girl could trigger him to release what he contains. This will not be allowed to happen. I trust the Yondaime's seal, but it is also powered by his will. Up until now, he has not been given a reason to release the demon. But I foolishly allowed my anger at him to influence my decisions about him. Bring them both in alive unless you wish for Konoha to die." The meeting adjourned. Sarutobi motioned for Inoichi and Shikaku to remain behind. He spoke to the Genin in low tones. "Thank you for your help in this briefing. At least 2 of Danzo's people were in this meeting. The information you presented would make most sensible people afraid to try to kill either Naruto or Sakura, so that is the best we can do for them for now. Tell Ibiki to get all the men he can trust absolutely. In less than 72 hours, we are going to pull out this offending route. Shibi should have a solid location trace by then." The room they were waiting in was barely lit by a single 15-watt bulb. Naruto sat somewhat calmly, trying to look like he was meditating, while Sakura was nervous in the enclosed space. Finally she snapped, "How can you just sit there calmly, Naruto? They left us alone in here." Naruto opened one eye and looked at Sakura. "No, they haven't. We're still on duty." When the pink-haired girl looked at him, he raised one eyebrow slightly. She seemed to get the message and started to calm down. "Sakura-chan, I always know when someone is watching me, even the Anbu." The words rung in her memory. They were being watched and tested right now. They were on duty. "Interesting," a voice murmured. "They have some more intimate knowledge of each other than we had thought." "What do you mean, sir?" asked one person in the darkness. He was reassuring her. "Did you notice how she calmed down after he spoke? What shall we do about it, Danzo-sama?" "Nothing for now. Assign them to Trainer 6. He only has one student at this time. They might work well with that one. His emotional training is nearly complete and his skills would complement the pair. I am loath to separate them until they get more conditioned. Keeping them together is a smaller security risk. If what our people say is true, disposing of her directly could cause trouble. Keep them away from the core areas." Sakura looked up as the door finally opened. A gray-haired boy in his late teens stood there. "Exit the room and follow," was all he said. Naruto and Sakura looked at each other before following. The older teen led them along a winding path until they came to another room. The teen gestured for Naruto and Sakura to enter. The room they entered was tiled and looked like a shower room. Remove all of your clothing and place it on the table, the teen said in a steady voice as he pointed to a table. Naruto and Sakura just looked at him. When neither moved, the teen repeated, remove all of your clothing and place it on the table. Compliance is required. Sakura's eyebrow twitched as her temper flared. I am not getting gnawed in front of you perverts. The gray-haired teen just looked at Sakura. Failure to comply will result in your being removed from this facility and turned over to the Hokage to exact the death sentence awaiting you for the killing of a Konoha ninja. Remove all of your clothing and place it on the table. Slowly, Naruto started removing his clothes and shortly afterwards Sakura started to remove hers as well. The gray-haired boy waited in silence in the hallway without a sign of emotion on his face. Sakura's anger faded as her sense of modesty took over. She glanced at Naruto, who made sure to stare at a spot on the wall just over the door. Inside she smiled, as she knew he was trying to respect her as much as he could. She had wished someone she loved would be the first to see her nod, but that option had gone when they agreed to this mission. Her anger returned enough for her to not try to hide behind her arms, as the older teen had not even reacted. Wash yourselves then return to this spot, the gray-haired teen said as he pointed at the showers. Naruto just turned and just went to the shower, deliberately not looking at Sakura. She turned as well and went. The water was tepid at best and only had on and off as settings. Both quickly finished and waited back where they had started. The older teen had removed everything from the table and it only contained 2 towels, 2 plain jumpsuits and their sandals. You will be taken to your sleeping quarters now, he said in that annoying monotone of his. Naruto leaned close to Sakura after they had dried and gotten the jumpsuits on. Before he could speak a word, the older boy said, talking outside of relaying mission information is prohibited. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the gray-haired teen but decided to bide his time. Instead he spoke in a low voice, I assume there is some list of all these rules of yours somewhere. All root members do as they are commanded to, that is all you need to worry about, was the reply. Funny, I don't recall saying I was becoming a root member, Naruto countered in the same low tone as before. I was made an offer of an alternative and I've seen so far are flunkies. I am waiting for the rest of the offer. You followed, you entered this facility. That implies acceptance. If you go against that, you risk harm befalling your comrade. You harm one hair on Sakura-chan and I will bring this entire complex down around your ears, Naruto said with a growl. That is a hollow threat. If you do so, you will kill Haruno as well. Sakura watched this interplay, soaking up information. This gray-haired person was under complete control of himself. He did not even look like his heart had sped up once. Naruto, Sakura said in an equally low tone. We need the place to hide for now. Naruto took a deep breath and relaxed his posture. The monitor screen flickered in the darkness. It seems Haruno does have some effect on Uzumaki as well. Did you notice his whole posture had become more feral until Haruno spoke to him? She might be of more use than we had first thought if she can help control him. We shall see, Danzo replied. We shall see. Wake them after 1 hour of sleep but do not let them know how much time has passed. After that, they never get more than 4 hours of rest per day. Naruto and Sakura were led to adjacent cells close to the shower room. Each was a 10 feet by 6 feet with a sleeping mat and a toilet. The gray-haired teen ushered each into a cell and the doors were bolted from the outside. Sakura lay down to rest some in spite of not really needing sleep yet. The sleeping mat was barely thicker than a gym mat. They apparently do not go for comfort here. I hope Naruto was able to keep track of where we are. I lost track after we were brought underground. Between low light and large areas with none, I cannot even be sure if we passed any side tunnels. Naruto lay back as well. He was troubled by the fact that the old man had not given them a means to contact him. He understood the reasons from his training in the past 6 months but he still didn't like it. Sleep nagged at the edge of his consciousness as he thought of what else he could do. Barely after both teens had fallen asleep, they were awakened. The gray-haired boy had both of them follow him to an open area but still underground. This is where you shall train. En route, there is only the mission. Your mission right now is to obey. For you training, I have been given the name, Shishin. There will be another joining us shortly. Until then, you will spar with each other. Naruto and Sakura faced each other and began with basic sparring motions when Shin called for them to stop. That is not sparring. You are merely exercising. When you spar here, you are doing your best to deal damage to your opponent. Do you understand? Naruto was tempted to glare but only replied, "Yes, sir." He faced Sakura again and went at her full force. He quickly broke through her defenses and sent her to the floor gasping for air from a punch to her abdomen. Shin spoke in the same dull tone as before, only by fighting at your hardest will a person learn to defend properly. If they cannot defend themselves, they will be dead weight on a mission and cause it to fail. By getting rid of the dead weight, we make Konoha stronger. Again. Naruto looked as Sakura got into the ready position again. He took a deep breath and waited. Why are you hesitating? Attack, Shin commanded. Naruto spoke up. It was Sakura's turn to attack. I need to defend as well. There is no waiting in training. If you are not on mission or training, you are wasting time. En route, we do not waste our time on such things. Attack. Naruto attacked once more. He broke Sakura's defenses once more and threw her to the ground. He hesitated once more. Attack, Shin commanded. She is not defeated, only knocked down. Naruto growled and was about to turn on Shin when Sakura swept his legs out from under him. He fell flat on his back, momentarily stunned. Sakura rolled into a somersault and brought both heels down on Naruto's chest. He coughed loudly as he could not breathe for a moment before Sakura struck again with an elbow just below his sternum. He swung a backhand into her face to get her off of him. She rolled with it so it did little damage as she quickly rose to her feet. Naruto rolled onto all fours when she kicked him in the ribs. He caught the foot with one arm against his body. He turned his head to look at Sakura. Sakura shifted her weight to her trapped leg and lifted her other foot to kick Naruto in the face. He let loose his grip on her foot as he rolled away. Both staggered to their feet as Naruto checked his nose for breakage. It was only bloody. He snorted in and spat out blood to one side. She settled into a stance and found her ankle hurting slightly, likely a twist from her last fall with Naruto holding it. Continue, Shin said in his same monotone. Come on, Naruto. Not going to let a girl beat you, are you? Sakura taunted. Naruto and Sakura both attacked. A single bug crawled out of a sewer grate and took to the air. A short time later a patrol of Anbu stopped nearby. They searched a building before going to the next and on down the block. Roughly an hour after they left, a long line of rice-sized bugs marched in files down the grate. Yugo was off duty that evening so she made it a point to visit Hiro. She found Hiro talking to Kakashi. Both men got quiet once she entered the shop. No need to stop on my account, boys, she commented. We're all on the same side here. Hiro smiled and waved Yugo over. I was just telling Kakashi about the burglary I had the other night. He just got back into town from a long mission. Yeah, a pair of desperate criminals I heard, Yugo said with a chuckle. I heard a rumor they snuck past a pair of Genin teams and Anbu seals on every door and window into Uzumaki's apartment, Hiro said. That boy is as good as the gang said. How the hell did he not pass the academy, Kakashi? The exit exam is not geared towards someone having so much chakra that they overload a simple clone plus certain people made sure he would not pass on his own merits, Kakashi replied. I peeked in on him a few times since then. Getting proper training, he was a certain pass but now I wonder what is going to happen. Don't forget Pinky either, Kakashi, Yugo growled out. You failed her already. All she needed was a serious dose of reality and she improved almost as fast as Uzumaki did under quality training. Both of them have potential written all over them. Kakashi looked stunned. You're not serious, are you? Yugo smirked. Completely serious. I think Inu needs to go have a discussion with the primary about this as soon as possible. No tardiness either. Kakashi narrowed his lone eye. She is very serious if she brings that into this. Even with Hiro a part of the gang and all, mentioning it in the open like that is dangerous. Kakashi muttered, I'll let him know about it. The one-eyed Jonin left with a troubled look on his face. Hiro waited a few minutes before speaking. He wasn't in on the Hokage's plans, was he? No. Sarutobi-sama had intended to make Kakashi the kid's Jonin-sensei along with Pinky and the Uchiha. He figured a team so much like his own Genin squad might pull the scarecrow out of his mental funk. On duty, the man is a genius, but off duty, he's a mental cripple. After seeing what we found after the kid failed and everything with Root being dug up, the Hokage figured he should focus on digging out Root before something happened in Konoha. I also heard the Uchiha is not fitting in too well with his current team, Hiro chuckled. A huge understatement there, Hiro. The kid is causing more problems than Uzumaki had with pranks. I have heard teething babies whine less than that primadonna. That team is so dysfunctional they are screwing up D ranks. That boy needs someone his own age to knock him on his butt. The only reason that team even has a C rank to qualify for the exams in a few weeks is that the Hokage wanted a quiet couple of weeks and sent them on a snipe hunt near the border with Wind Country looking for bandits. Hiro roared with laughter until Yugo threatened to hit him. Sakura felt like she had been run over by a wagon. Even with Naruto's help she could barely stand as the pair was led to the showers. She did not even care Naruto was right behind her as she pulled off the jumpsuit to wash. She just looked down her body. The bruises were already forming. She could have gone easier, but she was doing what needed to be done. The taunts she had made to get Naruto to fight all out had hurt her physically once he had really gotten going. She just put her hands on the wall and let the water rain down over her head. Naruto had only glanced at Sakura to make sure she would not collapse. The bruises he saw on her legs and back made him wince. He did not even get a stirring from seeing her nod. All he felt was guilt that he had beaten his only friend so badly. His own bruises were fading like they always had for him. In about an hour he would be recovered as if he had never fought. Sakura-chan, I'm sorry, he said in a quiet voice. Don't worry about it, Naruto. I hit you often enough in the past. Some payback is karma, she said just as quietly. Besides, we're still on duty. No time for friends on duty, remember? Naruto looked at the tile in front of him. I don't think they're going to let us be off duty anymore, Sakura-chan, he said. Sakura didn't reply. She just nodded. Sarutobi glared at Kakashi as the Jonin was standing on the other side of his desk. He had been about to leave the office when Kakashi had shown up. Kat suggested that Inu have a talk with the primary, Hokage-sama, Kakashi said in a contrite voice. Sarutobi sat down and shook his head slowly. So much for a quiet evening to rest while other people make the needed preparations. He was not in the mood to deal with Kakashi right now, but the Jonin would be an asset in the next few days. Kakashi, I don't know if I can trust Inu right now. I need someone who is all there, not a burnout, he said in a slow, deliberate voice. Kakashi's visible eye widened at what the Hokage had said. Sir, no, just listen, Kakashi. I wanted you to be a Jonin sensei to a team that even you would not turn down if you took the time to look underneath the underneath, as you like to say. Haruno, Uchiha, and Uzumaki were my original choices for your team. That was a deliberate choice on my part to help you. They would have been a mirror of Team Minato before your incident. Other circumstances forced me to change that decision. Kakashi seemed to shrink into himself at what the Hokage had said. His mind took in what the leader had said and saw the parallels, Naruto as Obito, Sakura as Rin and Sasuke as Kakashi. The Hokage was trying to give him a chance to redeem himself in his own eyes by not failing his team this time. But he had failed the team he had been given because he was not looking forward, just dwelling in the past. Without Naruto in the mix, he had not seen the similarities. So you understand a little now, Kakashi. Instead, something even I had not planned on has come about. While Inu's back was turned on Naruto, Danzo's minions were slowly poisoning his chances and making him an outcast. While he was under Inu's protection, Sarutobi finished with a shout. His father would be disappointed in you, Kakashi. Kakashi had no reply to the accusation because he knew it was true. Right now, Naruto and Sakura are in the hands of Danzo and his root. They are the bait to lead us to the nest of that traitor. By tomorrow evening, everything should be in place to rip it out completely. I have a special assignment for Inu to redeem himself, Kakashi. Kakashi looked up. During the raid, Inu's assignment will be to rescue and bring out his students, Haruno Sakura and Uzumaki Naruto. Sakura felt like she had just lain down when her cell door opened and she was told to get up by Shin. The second day of physical training had been worse than the first. All of her bruises pained her and she could barely move. She struggled to get up and obey the gray-haired boy. A calloused hand slid into hers. She lifted her head to see it was Naruto helping her to her feet. She stretched slightly as the pair walked after Shin. The small eating area had another person in it today, a dark-haired boy with pale white skin. It looked like he had rarely been out in the sun. He looked up from his bowl of something without expression. Naruto pushed Sakura into a chair and went up to the serving area to return with 2 bowls of something brown. He slid one to Sakura along with a spoon. Even after a few meals like this, she could not even think of the goop as food. It had no taste and there was nothing to give it any. The only difference in it was that the color changed slightly each time. Tofu tasted good in comparison. In spite of her disgust, she began shoveling it into her mouth. Her hunger would not wait. What passed for food never seemed to fill her up. She was exhausted. She tried to focus past her sore muscles and bruises. She had gotten to sleep 3 times since coming to this place. None of them seemed to be for very long. She was getting used to simply doing what she was told. It felt worse than during remedial PT and later chakra training. They were starting to do something to her but she didn't have the energy to resist. Naruto looked at Sakura eating almost mechanically. Her eyes told of her exhaustion but he was not much better. He was hungry. He was tired but he seemed to be finding the energy to keep going from somewhere. He was not getting better or worse off, just continuing to hold on at the same low point. Shin never showed any expression at them but Naruto did notice that the gray-haired teen would keep working Naruto after Sakura couldn't continue. When she couldn't go on, Shin made the girl simply stand at attention while Naruto continued with exercises. Root was trying to break them. Once the food was eaten, Shin indicated for them and the dark-haired boy to follow. Sarutobi called the clan leaders and all of his advisors together late in the afternoon. He needed to be a distraction on his own while his Anbu did the work. The upcoming Chunin exams was a good reason to gather them all together. The tower had many fewer people in it today. Several people had gotten sick during the morning and in the afternoon several more had begun vomiting. Sarutobi called for the meeting to be held in the Academy Room 301 where the first exam would be given. Once Sarutobi left, Anbu slipped into the tower and quietly took away about 24 people. Kakashi pulled out his old mask. The dog face on it almost mocked him. It looked like it was on guard but he knew he had not been that attentive when he last wore it. Inu had a good reputation once and now he had a chance to reclaim it in the future. He just had to reach out and take it. The mask slid into place. Hiro got his people together. All the physically capable would watch the known exits of the underground tunnels Root preferred to work out of. Blue Aardvark had known more than it had let on. They were all over Konoha and while technically retired never quite gave up on being who they were. Bits of information always were passed between them and as a whole they passed it on to active duty Anbu members. Root had been a thorn to them since it had been officially disbanded but never dissolved. Now, it would be pulled out like the weed it was. Naruto and Sakura faced the dark-haired boy together. So far he had beaten them both quite badly in sparring. Naruto was not certain, but this guy had to be at least Chunin level already, and Shin had called him just another trainee. The blonde helped the pink-haired girl to stand as he popped her dislocated finger back into place. Under his breath he talked to her, "Okay, I think I have a plan to get this guy at least once." Shin said it is a spar, right? But he never said anything about rules. We are using our best stuff on this guy and not getting anywhere separately. We need to work this together. Sakura could barely open one swollen eye after the sparring from today and was willing to try anything at this point to get a few shots in. What are we doing? When you see me make a ram seal, close your eyes and wait for the flash. Then you take out his ability to breathe. I'm gonna beat on Shin too if he falls for it, Naruto said. Sakura nodded and moved off to Naruto's left. Naruto charged headlong at the dark-haired boy once more, but pulled up at about 3 steps from him and focused his chakra and made a ram seal. Sakura ran up trailing and was ready for it. The chakra flash Naruto created lit the room bright enough to make Sakura's eyes hurt even when closed. The flash faded as she ran past and jumped at the dark-haired teen. She saw his hands up by his face and she grinned ferally as her foot connected a side kick with the boy's stomach. She was surprised, however, when the boy shattered and she was sprayed with ink. Sakura managed to roll as the resistance to her kick vanished. Naruto heard a sound to one side as the dark-haired boy was scribbling on a scroll. He followed with a hand sign and a new clone rose. Damn it, Naruto thought. He is one step ahead of us. Naruto really wanted some weapons at that point. He was getting tired of everything in this place. He wanted to sleep. He wanted some ramen. He was fed up with playing to these traitors. Enough, Shin called out. It is time to stop for now. Sakura, let me see your hand. Shin made a hand sign and his hand glowed green as he ran it over Sakura's finger. Some minor damage to a couple of ligaments. Hold still. Shin then focused as he held the palm over the wounded area. Naruto yelled, "You can heal, but you let Sakura-chan be in pain from all kinds of bruising for days now." What about her eye? Shin looked at Naruto but still never changed his expression. Healing simple bruising is a poor use of limited healing ability. The bruising reminds her that she should improve in her taijutsu ability. However, in the case of her finger, she would be limited should the damage heal incorrectly. Waiting 2 weeks for that to occur would be a waste of valuable resources. In this case, it makes sense to provide healing for that area. Naruto grumbled his annoyance. He could not fathom why he was feeling so angry at everything the past day. Instead of dealing with Shin, he looked at the dark-haired boy. Do you have a name? Heck, can you even speak? The dark-haired boy looked to Shin, who nodded briefly as he still focused on Sakura's finger. I have no assigned name at this time, he said blankly. Naruto frowned. I can't get your attention with a, hey you. I'll call you Gashi artist, since you draw stuff for jutsu. Shin finished his healing on Sakura's finger and turned away. Follow, he commanded. Sarutobi was discussing the upcoming Chunin exam with the clan elders and his advisors. He had always liked hearing other people's opinions and gave them weight in his own decision-making. He agreed that allowing as many possible teams of Genin to participate in the upcoming exams would be a benefit to Konoha. Limiting it to just the elites like on foreign exams would never let Konoha find hidden diamonds in the rough. Some of the more revered clans grumbled at the idea, but they understood that a strong Konoha would make them look better in the long term. The meeting was interrupted when a noise of a body falling sounded outside the room. The Anbu at the door came to alert but recognized the ninja who came in the room. The Anbu who entered bowed to Sarutobi. My apologies, Hokage-sama, a spy who was listening in on this meeting was just disposed of. Everything is secure. Good. Send out the alert, dear, Sarutobi replied. The people in the meeting frowned at hearing of a spy, but Sarutobi just raised a calming hand. We must always be cautious of spies and people who would harm the Konoha that we all love. Isn't that right, Danzo? He asked. The old crippled advisor nodded. Konoha must always be protected, Hokage-sama. Sarutobi hardened his features and looked squarely at Danzo. I take it that your failure at disbanding Root when ordered was your way of protecting Konoha, Danzo. Danzo narrowed his soul eye at Sarutobi. What are you referring to, Hokage-sama? Root was stopped after the last war at your order. It no longer exists. The time for games is over, Danzo. The spy the Anbu just eliminated was your man. The same man that has followed you to every meeting in the tower for the past year. Your spies working in the tower administration have been apprehended. Your facility is being raided as we speak. If you truly love Konoha, surrender and take your punishment. Danzo stood and glared at Sarutobi. What kind of lies have been filtering into your senile old mind, Sarutobi? He countered. No lies, Danzo. Just that time has come to put an end to your plans to turn Konoha into an aggressive power. To make sure that our children and grandchildren can have a chance to live in peace, Sarutobi said. Danzo sneered. Peace, Faye. The only way to live in peace is to be the strongest power in the world. You are letting Konoha grow weak with your soft ways, letting ninja retire, instead of using them as the weapons they are. You talk of peace and allow lesser villages to grow strong. You allow enemy ninja to live and allow bandits to be turned over to daimyos for trial instead of executing them as you should. That is the law the daimyo set forth and Konoha will obey it. We serve him, not the other way around. As far as my so-called softness, people should not live in fear of their rulers. Ninja who follow through loyalty will always be better than those that follow through fear. You never understood that love of family and friends makes a Konoha ninja strong and willing to do the hard things, to make the hard choices. Every Hokage has known this and done so. And now I have to as well. Danzo scoffed. What do you mean by a hard show? Danzo's question was cut off as his good arm was removed from his body by an Anbutanto. A hidden kunai clattered to the floor from Danzo's kimono. The assembled people were splattered with blood before the Anbu covered the wound. The choice of whether or not to let you live, Danzo, Sarutobi said quietly. The hawk flying over Konoha made the signal it was trained to make. In various areas of Konoha, teams sprung into action. Single Jonin entered shops in various parts of the village. They requested that the owner of the business come with them. The Hokage had questions for them regarding their business practices. A team of Chunin led by a Jonin entered the quartermaster. They took a certain man into custody. Once they had left, another man tried sneaking out the back door only to be apprehended by Anbu as an accomplice. The hidden entrances to the root warren were flung open by Anbu who rushed into the lair. Traps set off by the forced opening of the portals killed or wounded more than a dozen Anbu and set off an alarm inside. Those dead Anbu melted into mud or water or simply dissipated into chakra smoke. The second wave entered into the lair. An Aburame clan member accompanied each team and pointed the way past false passages and dead ends. The alert was silenced after seconds, but it served its purpose. Some additional masked ninja appeared in the passage to stop the invaders, but a brief fight ensued. The Anbu were limited to hand-to-hand encounters with kunai due to the narrow passages, but this did not stop the root ninja. One rushed ahead to combat and block one team while his comrade spat out a fire jutsu in his wake. The root ninja died along with the Anbu team. The jutsu user fled from the flaming bodies to wait and ambush another group. In another passage, the shouts of the dying team echoed. The Aburame in this squad paused and pointed to a spot in a shadowed alcove. Flung kunai peppered the shadow before a single root ninja collapsed out of it. With that ambush thwarted, the Aburame waved the team forward. Naruto and Sakura stopped eating and both looked up as the alert sounded. Shin and the dark-haired boy Naruto had dubbed Gashi both looked around before Shin stood. Follow, he commanded as he strode out of the room. Gashi followed immediately and Sakura looked at Naruto who shrugged and got up to follow. The spies caught up to the root agents outside of the door. Shin looked both ways and listened before heading down a corridor Naruto and Sakura had never been down. What is going on? Naruto asked in a low voice. Shin was back at him in a moment with a drawn kunai to Naruto's neck. If you speak again, you will die. Not if you understand, he hissed. Naruto nodded and felt the kunai leave his throat. Follow, Shin ordered again and moved off quickly with the other three following. Inu was impatient as his team made their way deeper in the root labyrinth. He trusted Shibi's clansmen and followed along behind the guide. Every so often their guide would call his bugs back within his body as the team passed through certain areas. The Chunin finally led them to a room that looked like a shower. The Aburame would not enter the shower room. This is where the primary scent trail leads to. A lesser scent trail leaves the room. Logic says it would be their gear. The scent does not leave the room otherwise. Kakashi silently moved into the room and lightly opened one tap. The barely noticeable scent of something was mixed with the water. He nodded. It was a means of avoiding the Aburame destruction bugs. He shut off the water and nicked his thumb on a kunai. 5 hand signs later, a number of ninja hounds sat in the room. Yo, said a pug. This place stinks. I know, Pakun. I need your noses. We need to find a pair of kids down here. They are doused in whatever scent this room is putting on them. The dogs all sniffed around the room and headed out the door. They growled and yipped at each other as they cast about for the most current scent. Finally Pakun spoke to Kakashi, the most recent one is here. They keep following the same trails. Kakashi nodded and turned to the Aburame. Take the squad with you and follow your bug's original scent trail. Likely that should be an equipment room of some kind. Secure that and recover anything belonging to the targets. The group with Kakashi nodded and took off down a different hall. Kakashi turned and followed his hounds deeper into the labyrinth. They quickly found a training room and beyond that an eating area with several half-eaten bowls of something green. The hounds all avoided the bowls. The freshest trail led out a different doorway. Kakashi had the scent himself now and hurried after the missing youths. Naruto stumbled after Shin and Gashi and helped along Sakura as they heard voices and battles in the corridors around them. The two older boys knew their way through this maze of passages and Naruto didn't. Something serious was happening. They passed a single body wearing a mask but not wearing normal Anbu clothes. He must be a root member, Naruto thought. Out of a side tunnel, a wounded Anbu operative appeared and grappled with Naruto. The man dropped a small gas pellet, which puffed out a cloud around Naruto and Sakura. The blonde could only grab onto the man in a reaction and try to not get carried to the floor. Sakura slumped against the wall for a moment before responding to the attack. Her leg came up between her enemy's legs at full force. There was a grunt before the man paused in his attack on Naruto. A second kick did the job as the man released Naruto. The blonde followed up by grabbing the head and held it while he struck with a knee directly to the mask of the Anbu where he estimated was the chin. The mask shattered under the force of the blow and the man fell to the ground stunned. Naruto grunted in pain. Okay, that was not a good idea to do that. It just looked so cool in the movies I figured it was a real move. Those masks are hard, he thought. He stumbled away from the fallen man and hurried after Shin and Gashi. The entire melee had taken under 10 seconds. Neither of them had even thought about it, just reacted. Shin led them deeper into the tunnels. 4 ninja boiled up out of the ground into the alley. The masked root ninja quickly shed their armor and masks. Without the distinctive root garb, they could pass as ordinary ninja and clear the area to safety. The 3 men and 1 woman then quietly began to walk toward the marketplace when a fireball forced them back into the alley. A group of blue masked ninja wearing blue robes stood on the eaves above them. Surrender, root ninja. You cannot escape, one spoke in an authoritative voice. The woman pulled out a handful of kunai with exploding tags and activated them in the same motion. Before she could hurl them, she was struck by a half-dozen kunai herself. The activated tags fell to the ground and exploded. The buildings on both sides of the alley were heavily damaged by the blast. The 4 root ninja died. The blue-masked ninja jumped down to render aid to the wounded civilians. A Genin was leading what appeared to be a squad of Chunin out one gate of Konoha when a swarm of bugs landed on the group. The ninja all screamed as their chakra was drained. The gate guards were shocked by this and went to aid the team until an Anbu motioned for them to wait. They are spies. The guards were scared and one stammered out, but their papers were legitimate. The Anbu only nodded, the papers likely were legitimate. However, the people were not. Bind them and do not let them escape. Someone will come for them shortly. The Anbu returned to hiding after that while the bugs retreated back into the trees. Another explosion rocked the market district. The ground under a shop collapsed as its hidden supports were destroyed. Several ninja leapt out of the hole and raced off in several directions past screaming civilians. A pair of Anbu followed as 2 others lay wounded. One woman was knocked out but was being tended to by her teammate as he wrapped a bandage over his own wound. The moving wounded Anbu waved off the healthy team members to pursue the enemy. They could only follow 2 of the escaping enemy. They split up and pursued. Inu made his way following the scent. Fear laced into the trail now as Pakun led the way. He saw a wounded Anbu struggling to rise. He paused to help the man and the agent gasped out, "I saw the blonde and pink-haired kids down here. I tried to gas them but they took me by surprise after catching a good whiff of it. Watch out for her kicks cause she got really good aim." Inu nodded. "How long ago?" "Not even 2 minutes ago," the man gasped out in a cough. Kakashi continued on his mission. Now a moment of doubt crept into his mind. Had the teens gone over to the side of Root? A lone Root ninja crawled out of the tunnels and looked about with no expression. Danzo-sama must have fallen in his efforts to bring Konoha to glory. He stripped his clothing and doused himself with a bucket full of what looked like water. A vigorous scrub of his hair and a small bug fell out of the short strands. The man dried himself and put on civilian clothing. The young merchant would go back to his store and blend back into the population. His walk down the street was halted as a pair of men in blue robes appeared on either side of him. The Root man never noticed the Senbon that impacted his neck as darkness took him. A squad entered a hallway full of bolted rooms. Panicked voices sounded from within. The masked special forces peeked into the various rooms. A dozen children of various ages between 5 and 10 were rescued from confinement. The older children seemed much more sedate than the younger, showing they had gone through some sort of emotional training. The squad originally with Kakashi had only a single person to deal with as they secured the equipment room. From within a weapons pouch belonging to Naruto crawled single Aburame destruction bug. It flew over to land on the Aburame Chunin and rest on the man's shoulder as it took in chakra. The man knew it was not one of his own colony but allowed the small bug to feed. He dispersed his own bugs into the room and they quickly identified the personal property of the targets. The squad gathered the items and departed before sealing the room behind them. Sakura was in a haze now. She had just reacted when the masked man had attacked Naruto. She clung to the blonde as he led the pink-haired girl through the tunnels. The last of her strength was gone. She just wanted to eat, to get some sleep, to not have any more pain. She finally just closed her eyes and let herself slip away. Naruto suddenly found himself bearing the entire weight of his friend. He stopped to lift her up in his arms. Ahead of him Shin and Gashi stopped as well. "Leave her," Shin commanded. "The mission comes first. Our mission is to escape." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the gray-haired teen before him, not without Sakura-chan. Shin stepped closer. "You will be caught by the Anbu if you slow down. They will execute you for killing a Konoha ninja," he said in the same monotone. Naruto backed up step for step as Shin moved forward. He was tired and he could barely hold up Sakura. He had no weapons and no idea where under Konoha he was. The anger he felt kept gnawing at the back of his mind. He just decided to finally tell his taskmaster off. Shin felt the edge of worry appear in his mind for the first time he could recall. Naruto's eyes subtly changed as the blonde stood straighter. The color changed from blue to red as he spoke in a voice laced with hatred. I will not leave my friend behind. If I have to face death to protect her, then I'll face death. Damn your mission and damn you. I am a ninja of Konohakagure no Sato, and we do not leave our comrades behind like trash. A voice behind him spoke out. Well said, Naruto. Please step aside so I may deal with these root traitors. Naruto lost his focus as soon as he heard the voice. His eyes returned to their normal blue color as he turned his head to look. Shin darted forward at Naruto with a kunai poised to strike. Naruto swung around to put his back between the blade and Sakura, but a pug attacked Shin from a shadow. Naruto fell to the ground as Kakashi slid past him. The battle was as brief as it was violent. Shin could not defend himself with Pakun hanging on his arm. Kakashi stabbed the gray-haired boy in each shoulder, then kicked the teen's feet out from under him. Shin fell and took a blow to the temple before he could even hit the ground. Kakashi faced Gashi next. The dark-haired boy had only stood while Kakashi and Shin fought. Surrender and you will be allowed to live, Kakashi said. Gashi looked at Kakashi, then at Shin as if needing orders. Kakashi took control of the situation by closing the gap and knocking out the unresisting teen. He pulled out some bits of wire to bind both root ninja. Naruto was lightly shaking Sakura, trying to wake her. She was still breathing, so he was not very worried. He felt drained and wanted to collapse even more than ever. He lay her down on the ground and shakily stood back up as he kept feeling weaker. Kakashi turned to see the blonde-haired boy tending to his friend. Time to go, Naruto. Time to get you back home. Naruto narrowed his eyes and blinked, trying to clear up his tunnel vision. He kept trying to remember. He had seen this Anbu before. Inu. You used to carry me home, when I always got lost in Konoha, a long time ago. The dog-masked Kakashi nodded. So you do remember that, Naruto. Good. The Hokage was worried and sent me to get the pair of you out of here. Naruto nodded slowly as his eyes were closing. So where we going now, Inu? Kakashi caught the blonde as he collapsed and he laid the boy next to Sakura. Back into the light, Naruto. All three of us. Naruto woke suddenly and sat up in the hospital bed. He looked side to side and his eyes focused on the flash of pink he saw in the next bed. Sakura lay sleeping on the bed next to him. He actually felt better than he had in weeks. His stomach felt a bit off, but other than that he was good. He wasn't even angry anymore. The wires taped to his head and chest were the first things he removed as he glanced about the room. The door opening quietly put him on alert. A nurse came in with a smile on her face. He could see a guard outside the room before it closed. The nurse stopped at the foot of the bed. You're awake a lot sooner than expected, Uzumaki-san, she said. With what you went through the past week, we thought you would be out at least another day. Naruto looked at her warily. What do you mean? Where am I? In the hospital, of course, she said with a smile. You and Haruno-san were in bad shape when the Anbu brought you in. If you would excuse me, I need to send word to Hokage-sama that you have awakened. Naruto was confused. Yeah, sure. Once the nurse had left, Naruto lay back to think. The past few days were a blur in his memory. They had an almost dreamlike quality to them. He recalled Shin, Gashi, the tunnels, and finally Inu. His guilt over hurting Sakura during the sparring returned. He just sat in silence as the time passed. He seemed bursting with energy, and it took all of the self-discipline he had learned the past 6 months to not get up and run around. The door opened once more to admit an old man, the Hokage. The smile on his face after so long was like a warm sun after a cold winter's day for the boy. Hey, old man, he said softly. The Hokage stopped at the foot of his bed, still smiling. I am glad you're recovering so fast, Naruto. It seems Sakura is getting along better as well. You both had us worried when you arrived. Both of you were suffering from chakra exhaustion. Naruto looked at him confused. Sir, old man, how long have we been here? 2 days already. The destruction of Root went well. We got their base and most of their key people and ninja. Without you being taken to their headquarters, we would never have found it in that maze they built down there. I have teams still down there mapping it out for missing areas before we fill it in. I think we can call your mission completed. Most. Naruto wondered. Sarutobi smiled. I had Aburame Shibi plant a few of his clan's destruction bugs on each of you. Once you reached the base, some left you and returned down the back trail and found ways out that avoided the defenses Root had installed against them. Then more went into the base and marked every person in there. This allowed us to capture some that had been there but left. I assume some members of Root have escaped by the simple fact that they had not gone to the base during the time the bugs were settling on everyone. Bugs, said a confused Sakura in a soft voice. Sakura-chan, you're awake, cried out an excited Naruto. Yeah, she grumped. Turn down the volume. Sakura was obviously not a morning person. Naruto ducked his head slightly. Sorry. The Hokage chuckled. As I was saying, the Aburame bugs got carried into the base by the pair of you and sent back several as guides to the main colony. They infiltrated the Root Warren and attached to every person in there. We were able to identify several who had left by the time our raid occurred. Naruto grinned. So we did good, old man. Sakura threw a pillow at his head. Show the Hokage some respect, Naruto, she said. The teens made faces at one another for a minute before a laughing Sarutobi broke in. All right, settle down. There are a few downsides that need to be dealt with now. Sakura and Naruto both stopped and looked at their leader. First of all, the doctor in charge of you both had needed to pump your stomachs and, for lack of a better non-medical term, clean out your insides to get rid of whatever Root had been feeding you both. It was laced with a chakra inhibitor and some drugs that we have not fully analyzed yet. You both need to spend a few more days in the hospital to make sure they are out of your systems. Sarutobi looked at Sakura. You young lady have a few more days of healing before all of your bruising is gone. I hope you can explain why you are so beaten up. Sakura looked nervous and Naruto hung his head in shame. It was me, sir, he said in a low voice. They were making a spar full contact as training. If we held back, they would threaten us with death. My bruises just healed faster than Sakura-chan's did. Sarutobi nodded and frowned. I am not pleased that you both had to go through that, but I can understand the need for you doing what needed to be done. Naruto smiled some at that. Just watch out for those kicks of hers if you ever spar with her, old man. She is mean with them. Sarutobi nodded as Sakura blushed this time. Well, now the real issue to be dealt with. During your mission there was a large amount of intentional disinformation passed around regarding both of you. The rumor that you both attacked the pair of instructors was widely spread and many do not believe that it was falsified. Naruto, many added that to the undeserved reputation of yours. Naruto nodded solemnly. Either way, both of you are going to have some trouble with certain sectors of the civilian population for some time after this. The ninja of Konoha were informed that you both were assigned the blame on my direct orders and that neither of you did the actual deed. Word that an enemy force was being built from within Konoha and that the pair of you were being used as bait to locate it was also given out. Sadly, that may lead to few other genin trusting you closely for some time as well. I felt you both should know that right away because it might come up before you leave the hospital. Sakura sighed at hearing that. I'll save the rest of the official business for when you both get out of here. Now, since you both are up, I think you are both due some visitors. A number of people have been hoping to see you both, Sarutobi said. The aged leader went to the door and opened it before motioning to some people outside. Sakura's mother came in and hugged the teen. I was so worried about you, sweetheart. When you vanished like that, the Hokage came to see me that you were on a secret mission. The rumors were awful. He told me they were all lies and a cover story, but I still worried. Naruto watched the red-haired woman talk non-stop at Sakura after that while he just sat. Then he noticed a familiar face come in. Hiya Naruto, Iruka said. Naruto grinned as Iruka playfully bonked him on the head and the pair caught up on the recent events. 2 days later, Naruto and Sakura were released from the hospital. The Anbu had returned the clothing recovered from the root equipment room but had held onto the rest of Naruto's weapons and scrolls. They gave him a receipt to claim it later instead. The normal attitude the Anbu operative would display was different to the pair and seemed to convey a bit of respect. A letter from Hiro was also included inviting them to come by and get some spares if they needed it, at a discount of course. The pair had received visits from Team 10 but only a few members from their remedial class. They had never been well liked there, so it did not bother them. Ayame had come in and brought them ramen once. Sakura felt strangely upset when the waitress had given Naruto a kiss on the cheek. At their release, they were escorted to the Hokage Tower. Naruto noticed a few openly glaring stares but also a few smiles in his direction. Sakura was not really prepared for the negative reaction but tried to not let it bother her. The training they both had over the previous months let her maintain a calm expression even if she was troubled inside. The days of both being unnoticed in their military clothing were over. One pair of eyes focused on the passing group. The thought behind them was malevolent but the face never changed. A short wait found them standing before the Hokage. The old leader stood and walked around his desk. He held out a ninja headband to each of them. The new metal gleamed in the light. The teens both smiled and took them. They quickly placed them on their foreheads and bowed to their Hokage. Sarutobi pointed them to the couch and motioned for them to sit. He sat in a chair adjacent to it. Now, there is a lot to tell both of you and a few decisions to be made. First is what to do with the pair of you. I have already assigned you both to a Genin sensei, but I have been asked by a half-dozen others to consider them for the position. The ones asking include Kat and the man Hiro from the clothing store. Those two are the biggest surprise since neither of those people has shown any inclination to be a teacher. However, I am going to go with the choice I made 7 months ago when I was forming teams. Sakura narrowed her eyes slightly at that as the Hokage continued. I am going to place the pair of you with Hatake Kakashi. I know he failed you, Sakura, but that team was not the one I had originally intended. Believe it or not, Naruto was supposed to be a part of your team with Uchiha Sasuke. The third member of your team will depend on the outcome of the Chunin exams in 2 weeks. My main concern right now is where to place you. The elite program is where I would normally place both of you, but your mission has left you both with some negative publicity that many daimyos try to avoid when hiring elites. Also, by the same token, neither of you would fit well into the standard military program. You both are showing potential well above that skill level. We need to find a place for you, but the current organizational structure makes it difficult. So I needed to find something outside the current structure. After much thought, I decided to keep doing what I asked of both of you once already. I have decided you will be part of a team that answers directly to the Hokage, much like a junior version of Anbu. Officially, you will be counted among the elites, but your mission assignments will be less public and more military or black ops related ones. You will not be getting those ghastly public relations D-rank missions the rest of the elites get as Genin. You would be getting more escort-style missions. You will likely be placed into situations that fall into the gray area when a normal elite team might not be the best choice and an Anbu team would be overkill. A shadow elite. Naruto looked over at Sakura and back to the Hokage. What about our future, old man? People are all talking about the Chunin exams and how that is the best way for a Genin to advance in rank. If we are not a part of that, how will we get promoted? Sarutobi smiled at the boy. Your promotion to Chunin would be decided by me alone when you warrant it. You both have the right attitude but lack the practical experience right now. Kat will also be checking up on your training as it progresses. She will also help it along in some areas, especially with Sakura. Naruto looked happy while Sakura thought for a few seconds before speaking. Sir, about Kakashi-san, will he be like he was that time as my Jonin instructor? I mean, he was 3 hours late that one time I took his test. I don't know if that was part of it, but I remember in the academy, Iruka-sensei was saying that being on time was a part of being a ninja. Sarutobi chuckled. He will be on time for anything team-related, Sakura. He has had a few problems in his past that he is still dealing with, but I have stressed to him that he will not be having his lateness tolerated. Will it be just the three of us then? Naruto asked. That depends on the Chunin exams, Naruto, the Hokage replied. It depends on how the last potential member does during it. Sakura grinned as she lay back on the roof of Naruto's building. Naruto had the entire building to himself and she meant to take full advantage of that. A cooler of sodas lay next to the lounge chair and her bikini was as close to indecent as she dared. The best thing about the location was the height of the building and that it was far from the mountain so peepers would not get much of a view. Not that there was much to see. She idly thought, but it was the principle if the thing. It had been a week since the extermination of Root. Her first attempt to sunbathe at the local pool had been met with mixed reaction. Too many people had been wary or downright hostile to her the few minutes she had been there. The Sandame's cover story to get Root to pick up Naruto and her had worked a little too well. Lots of civilians and low-ranking ninja actually thought she was dangerous. Sure, she had gone through an intense 6-month course that brought her to the best physical shape of her life. Her chakra was many times what it had been in the academy and her control was nearly perfect. Her taijutsu and hand weapon skills were ranked at Chunin, but her practical experience was nearly zero. Her ninjutsu was only genin level, but that was due to the basic nature of the jutsu she had been taught. Drop her anywhere with a chance to survive and she would survive. The academy had made low-level warriors out of the elite-level genin they put out. The remedial training had polished that and made her into a soldier on top of it. Even the brief root training had taught her a lot about how much punishment she could handle physically and still keep going. But right now was plain and simple Sakura time. Months of full-cover uniforms and being in classrooms 6 days a week had taken its toll on her tan. Her lower face and hands were about the only part of her body that wasn't pale right now. The Hokage had given her and Naruto a week off and she intended to make the most of it. After the initial problem with the pool, she came over here to see what her teammate was doing with his time off. Going into the building through the open front door had been a shock. The only occupant had been Naruto. In fact, only a dozen or so people lived with 2 blocks of this building. That led to her dragging a lounge chair and a cooler over here to get the sun she wanted. Naruto had not complained too much, but his disagreement was obvious. She told him she wouldn't go into his apartment without his permission, but she was going to make use of his private roof. Naruto had tried to balk, but she hugged him from behind and whispered in his ear, "Please Naruto-kun," in a small voice. He just said okay in a choked voice and ran into his bedroom. She would have apologized for that, but he had been avoiding her for a couple of days now. Something tickled the edge of her perception and she had rolled off the lounge and gotten into a ready stance in a single motion. A voice called out, "Not bad. I was only there for a few seconds before you noticed me." Sakura turned her head to see Kat sitting on the edge of the roof. Sakura relaxed some and sit back down on the lounge chair. The Anbu spoke up, "Since Kakashi is busy with something else, the boss has asked if you and Naruto are willing to do a simple mission for a few hours. You get paid D-rank money to go spar with another genin team since it was a request on your day off and all." The pink-haired girl thought about it for a few seconds. "I'm up for it if Naruto is," she replied. "I was getting bored just laying around by myself. He hasn't seen you dressed like that, has he? I mean, if he sees you dressed like that, he is going to pass out from blood loss. That bikini is smaller than the bra and panties you had on that evening in the classroom." Sakura giggled softly. In spite of all her training, she was still a young teenage girl deep in the middle of puberty. Then she glanced at the sun to guess at the time. He should be over at the obstacle course about now. He still insists on beating the record time on that thing. His trouble isn't the time, it's the penalty seconds he gets doing it. Kat nodded. She had seen the boy missing the record almost daily on her observation assignment. His time would come in just under the record, only to see a few seconds tacked on for not completing every obstacle cleanly. He was not willing to give up those few seconds of speed needed to do it all correctly and come up with the same total score. One way or the other he would learn eventually, or get good enough to not get the penalty. Kat also noted Sakura avoiding the question she asked about Naruto seeing her. Something had flashed in the girl's eyes that would need discussing later on. I'll run home and grab my equipment. Where are we supposed to meet? Head over to the Hokage's office. He should have enough gear since it will be just a sparring session, Kat replied, and then she vanished in a swirl of leaves. Sakura grabbed her clothes and cooler and headed for the stairs. Naruto was sweating as he eyed his nemesis. The Genin level obstacle course was mocking him once again. The Chunin in charge of it was waving Naruto off because a team needed to use the facility. Once again he had failed to break the record. 4 penalty seconds had raised his finish time over the record once more. He hung his head as he stomped over to the staging area to reclaim his gear. Rough day at the office. A voice called out. Naruto looked to see Kat waiting next to his equipment. He wondered what was wrong because the old man had given him and Sakura a week off after they took his offer. The boss asked me to deliver a message since Kakashi is out of the village on a mission. Another team has requested you and Sakura for a sparring session. Since it was on a day off he gave you, it would get you D rank pay. Sakura already accepted on the proviso that you are up for it. Naruto perked up at spar. He agreed with no further prodding. Sarutobi looked over the desk at his 2 newest operatives. Without their head coverings, the pair looked like a normal genin. Both had apparently gone shopping once more since neither wanted to be wearing the old uniforms from their remedial training classes. The single outfit each had gotten from Hero's shop had been recovered along with their personal gear from the root equipment room. Neither, however, seemed inclined to use it. Naruto had gone to wearing a charcoal gray version of his old orange jumpsuit. The only noticeable difference was the neckline was turtleneck instead of wide open. He wore weapons stashed in various accessible points and stood relaxed but alert. Sakura switched to black capri-length stretch pants and a slightly loose shirt. An equipment belt was slung around her waist and kunai pouch strapped to her leg. Fingerless gloves with padded knuckles covered her hands. Her high-top ninja sandals were actually men's sandals in her size. She seemed to like the more heavy-duty construction since a lot of her taijutsu fighting style included a lot of kicks. The ankle supports also had beaded metal plates on sides. Sarutobi could see Kat's hand in her outfit as it is more like one an Anbu female would pick. If the pink-haired girl had chest armor and a mask, she could pass as an operative to an inexperienced genin or civilian. It seems Kat is finding a protege in young Sakura. It might do the girl some good. The aged leader spoke up. Team Asuma has asked for a sparring match with your team. It seems my son wants his team to enter the Chunin exams and he wanted to see how his team does facing a completely unknown team. He asked for you too because he has been curious about you since running into you both that day on the street. I also wanted to have some idea of how you would do in a fight. Naruto grinned. So it will be a 2-on-3 fight. Yes, Asuma has some idea of what you both can do, and judging by Kat's reports and the bruising you put on each other during your route mission, you both are capable of handling his team easily, Sarutobi said with a small smile. The pair walked over to the training areas along the streets. Many active and retired ninja nodded in greeting to the pair while civilians looked nervous. Both were amazed at how fast they had developed a reputation. Naruto was used to the glares, but the smiles and respect from other ninja was new. Sakura was saddened by the nervous looks but smiled at everyone who greeted her. Sakura did notice that Naruto had nearly caught up to her in height now. She was stuck at just under 5 feet tall for months now. Naruto seemed to have hit a small growth spurt due to the better diet the remedial classes had provided during lunch. At the training fields, they found Team 10 and Asuma waiting for them. Shikamaru was already sizing up the pair. They realized quickly he was the most dangerous one on the other team. They had learned of things to look for and his eyes were too observant. Ino perked up seeing the pair approach. She had been after Asuma to set this up ever since that night at the restaurant. There was no way that Forehead could have gotten that good since they graduated the academy. Sakura had been washed back while she had been kept in the elites and gone on a lot of official missions, even some C-rank ones. She watched the pair stroll across the field like they did not have a care in the world. Bah! Lambs to the slaughter, she thought. Choji just munched his chips as he watched Naruto and Sakura approach. His father had talked to him after the whole root incident in town. He mentioned that Choji should never disrespect either of the pair. They had gone on a high Chunin ranked mission with no backup with a strong chance of dying and had gone into it with open eyes. The boy chewed more slowly as he had heard respect in his father's voice when Choji had thought of scoffing at them for failing out of elite. Someone his father respected was worth paying attention to. He would be careful today. Shikamaru was sizing up every movement that Sakura and Naruto made as they walked over. The pair seemed too relaxed. They had been invited to a spar but Shikamaru knew it would be more than that. Ino had been badgering Asuma for weeks. They both looked professional and carried themselves more like Chunin or Jonin than Genin. When they were close enough, he could see their eyes. They were dangerous eyes and had been evaluating his team the entire time. Naruto's eyes focused directly on his own and the blonde boy gave a small nod. Naruto knew he was being sized up. Shikamaru suppressed a shudder and turned to Ino and Choji. Guys, this is not going to be easy. I think Asuma-sensei was right when he said they could take us out, he said in a low voice to his teammates. Choji just grunted and nodded slightly while Ino looked at him and just said, as if. Choji looked at the blonde girl. Ino, my father told me to give them respect. That should tell you something. Ino looked shocked. Chozo was a classic Akamichi in that he respected strength of body and character. For a pair of genin to have that from him was something she did not expect. She just nodded slowly after Choji spoke and decided to not say anything after that. She remembered some of the things that Asuma had said that night about the legions and how Sakura had faced being sent to that without flinching. Ino knew she would have been whining like a 3-year-old if she had to face that. Asuma greeted the incoming pair and the genin all greeted each other. Ino just said, Sakura, in a normal tone, but Sakura picked up on that Ino was intimidated by the fact the blonde did not insult the pink-haired girl. Sakura bowed and spoke to Asuma. Hokage-sama said you requested a spar with our team. We are still a person short but we will give it our best effort. Are there any specific rules you require? Asuma smiled at the politeness. Just no one try to cripple the other side. Naruto looked at Choji then back to Asuma, full contact. Asuma chuckled, no lasting wounds. Bruising is fine. Naruto nodded. Ino was again shocked and barely kept her mouth from falling open. How were Naruto and Sakura being so cool about this? They were bantering with sensei like they were discussing groceries. He was not even trying to cow them like he did to their team when giving instructions. He was speaking to them like professionals. Shikamaru pulled the team back from their teacher and opponents. We need some space before this thing starts, he hissed. He watched Naruto and Sakura turn to be able to see each other out of the corner of their eyes and both raised a hand to hide their mouths from view. Choji glanced to Shikamaru as they backed away dragging Ino. What is the plan? He asked. Shikamaru needed more information to come up with something. He needed to see them fighting some to find weaknesses. Choji, you engage in hand-to-hand. You'll have to absorb some damage to give me an idea of how to defeat them. Sorry to use you like that but these two are total strangers to us now. Ino, you engage from a distance with throwing weapons. I'll see if I can catch them by surprise with my shadows. Choji just nodded. He knew that was a large part of his job on this team. They were primarily an intelligence and support team and not meant to engage in heavy combat. But the Akamichi Jutsu were well suited to heavy combat and when used in defensive situations were very difficult to beat. Their size allowed them to take a few hits that would disable most ninja. Asuma leaned back on a tree and watched for a minute before he would call start. He had a good idea of the training Naruto and Sakura had gone through. He had a few friends years ago go through remedial and later worked their way onto Anbu. They were all dead now. The few times he had thought he was all that and sparred with them, they had handed him his butt. They had convinced him to start using his trench knives as more than a simple tool. His new seriousness in the military basics had led to his being invited into the 12 Ninja Guardians at the same time Anbu had invited him to join. He took the position with the Guardians but also accepted the bear mask that Anbu offered and still kept it in reserve to use it for the Hokage when needed. He wanted his team to learn that lesson before their first Chunin exam. They had potential to be great but they still thought they were invincible. He needed to break them of that idea and using someone they saw as a peer would be the best way to achieve that end. The fact that Ino looked down on Sakura right now was more of a blessing because the girl needed a wake up more than Choji or Shikamaru. Asuma called out, "Fight until one side is disabled. If I call someone out, you are out. Round 1, begin." Naruto ran directly at the charging Choji while Sakura shadowed her teammate. Choji prepared for a collision but was surprised when Naruto leapt to the side and he practically walked into a kick in the face from Sakura. The hefty boy fell over as Sakura pushed off him to race at Shikamaru. The pink-haired girl threw a kunai with a smoking tag at the ground next to the lazy genius. Shikamaru leapt off to one side away from the blade. He realized his mistake in midair as Naruto tackled him as he landed. The blonde's shoulder drove him into the ground and knocked the wind out of him. Sakura dodged a hail of shuriken from Ino as the blonde kept backing away from her one-time friend. The fight was not supposed to be like this, Ino thought. We were supposed to win.